It's the end of a long week on the maternity ward. Taryn Madden has been in labour for 2 days. Taryn needs the close attention of her midwives. But she's not the only woman counting on their support. Joan Kirner Women's and Children's Hospital is one of the busiest maternity services in Victoria. It supports thousands of families in Melbourne's rapidly growing west every year. Sue No is one of the midwives in charge.
The main thing is I know we're looking okay here.
After a handover from the night shift, she heads straight into morning rounds.
The first induction is the MEC in the room 47.
Sue will attend the birth of every baby born in the next 12 hours.
So we usually deliver 18 to 25 babies per day, which means we're delivering 6,500 babies per year. It is one of the most busiest tertiary hospitals in Australia. So today we're going to put the cannula in. We're of course doing all the clinical thing, but also we emotionally connect with the patient, with the woman, and we give all the moral and emotional support during the labour and the birth.
So Joan Kirner does 6,500 births every year?
It's an intense job.
Not many people.
And at any moment, things can take a turn. The heart rate of an unborn baby has suddenly dropped. The team quickly stabilise the mum and bub. It shows how quickly things can change. And it's life-saving work.
I would just give the iron and then get her to have like an FBE.
But services like Joan Kirner have been under significant pressure in recent years because of serious workforce shortages. In some parts of the country, maternity units have been forced to close, while others are struggling to keep up with demand.
I think absolutely services have been under pressure, and I think the COVID pandemic really highlighted and exacerbated quite a lot of the pressures that we probably were starting to see before the pandemic hit.
National workforce figures show there are 1,200 fewer people working in midwifery now than there were 6 years ago. That's despite a record 315,000 babies being born in 2021. Last year, the National Skills Commission found there were midwife shortages in every state.
What our members are talking with us about is, on a daily basis, a shortage of experienced midwives on every shift.
The union estimates at one major Sydney hospital alone, there were 23 vacant midwife positions last month.
What it means is that midwives on a shift-by-shift basis are having to make a decision about who's getting their care at that moment and who's not, and not knowing what's in that room further down the corridor.
As part of a crowdsourced investigation into maternity care, the ABC heard from more than 400 midwives across the country. Many of them told us understaffing was having serious impacts on patient care and that at times it felt unsafe.
Perth mum Rhian Darby experienced this firsthand when she gave birth to her son Taj in 2022. A week before her due date, she was told she needed to be induced. But when she got to the hospital, they didn't have enough midwives for her to safely give birth.
Every time I would ask to get an update or something, it was always, we don't have midwives, we don't have the birthing suite available. Yay!
Rhian spent 4 nights alone on the maternity ward, heavily pregnant with Taj, waiting.
It was extremely lonely, frustrating because it was also sorry. During COVID, so like visitation was very limited. My husband was still working, so he could only come at that night time period.
At one point, she was offered a caesarean section just so she could give birth.
I'd even asked the doctor if I could go regional, like I was happy to drive to wherever, if it was that sort of thing, and he said it's all over the state.
1, 2, 3, 1.
While the worst days of the pandemic may be behind us, midwifery researcher Robin Matthews says those experiences have taken a toll on staff. In 2021, she surveyed midwives in Victoria and found 3/4 were feeling burnt out, and 40% were regularly thinking about leaving the profession.
The midwives really like the work that they do, but they reported feeling really exhausted, that the workloads were incredibly heavy, that the ratios, the number of women and babies that they were looking after wasn't safe. They didn't feel like they were able to provide quality care within that.
She says being unable to support women at such a critical time is causing midwives distress.
So the more that you don't get to do the care the way that you want to, the more that affects you emotionally, and you become burnt out, you become cynical. And the worst thing in the world is a midwife who doesn't care about the women who she's looking after because she's got nothing left.
Assistant Health Minister Jed Carney says the government is currently reviewing the midwifery workforce and looking at ways to attract and retain more staff.
We need to make sure there is a robust workforce, that enough people are going into midwifery, that they can have fulfilling careers and work to their full scope of practice. But we also need to make sure that those services are where they're needed.
She's not in pain.
But unions say action is needed now to support midwives.
Improved workloads across the country will help retain the midwives that we have today.
Okay, 1 in 10. Oh, but she's not.
We're aiming to make a positive experience for women and for their families, and it is absolutely a privilege.
Giving babies and new mums the best start. Olivia Willis, ABC News.